Big thank you to GungHo for providing me with a copy of Puzzle & Dragons Gold. Puzzle & Dragons Gold, the newest installment in the Puzzle & Dragons franchise by GungHo Online Entertainment, has arrived on Nintendo Switch. I personally have been a fan of Puzzle & Dragons for about 4 years, having played the mobile game and Puzzle & Dragons Z on 3DS, but having Puzzle & Dragons Gold release on this Switch has brought a new style built upon what makes Puzzle & Dragons a great franchise. The simple but deep puzzling has now become the core of the competition in the Puzzle & Dragons Gold universe. The story, while not very long, sets up the game in a very strong way. You play as either the protagonist or his rival and start in the top 8 of a championship, battling your way to become champion. The climax of the story is a final battle after becoming the champion of that championship. You face off against the rival's brother, who appears as a professional player, and that really leads you into the end of that storyline. Each character has a pretty easy to identify personality, which lends itself well to the story's narrative. I would have loved to have seen this expanded upon in the game, but what we did get was still satisfactory and presented itself in a really fluid way, making it easy to follow and participate in as you battled your way through. Once you have finished both the rivals and the protagonist storyline, you unlock a harder version of the final battle as a rematch. It's definitely not something you want to take lightly, as it is definitely a step up from the storyline challenges. And also, as you complete the story, you unlock other characters and the ability to obtain their teams for use in the main battle mode. You'll also earn rainbow drops along the way as you play through the story. This is the currency the game uses to purchase things. These can only be earned in game and are something you cannot buy with real money, so spending your time earning these leads us to the replayability of the game. They are used in the egg machine. For just 100 rainbow drops, you can obtain a sub-monster with a random awoken skills. These skills can help you in many ways, such as boosting attack power or extending move time, so finding a monster with exactly what you want for a certain team may take a few attempts. These can also be used to purchase the pre-constructed teams that I mentioned a minute ago, as they are quite powerful and they do a good job at bolstering you in those early stages of the game. Puzzle & Dragons Gold is also exclusively a handheld game, as it does require the touchscreen of the Switch to perform the puzzling. While this is a little bit of a letdown, personally it is a completely understandable situation, as getting the fluid movements needed for the puzzle element would be extremely difficult in any other way. So even though it is handheld only, it doesn't take away from the enjoyment of the game. The puzzling is very smooth and the responses are always really good, so it really isn't that much of a bad thing that it is a handheld only game. So now on to the biggest part of the game, and what is really going to be the part that you will probably be playing the most, and that is the battle section of the game. So the battle section has online battles, local network battles, and a practice mode where you can test your teams. Unlike some of the previous games in the franchise that were more RPG orientated, Gold is about competitive battling and team building. This is where you'll probably spend a good chunk of your time at just working on teams, improving things, and getting used to moving orbs in certain ways to combo with your abilities, and that's really where you will develop a lot of your skill when it comes to the competitive side of things, as the online battles does have a fairly decent ranking system along with both independent, local, and online ranking systems, so that is a really interesting path for it to go down, and a really fun one too, as it's very quick and easy to just replay over and over and over again and kind of get addicted to it, which is really fun. Once you start doing online battles, things really start to heat up and fall into place. When starting out, it might feel like you're overwhelmed by abilities and crazy combos that people can pull off and destroy you very quickly with, but the more time you play, the easier it becomes to start doing the same thing yourself. You begin to work out which ability is the best, which order to put them in, and then you start to really pull off those 8+ combos on a regular basis. Things you can really have fun with and have a really good competitive game with once you do get to those points, especially because that higher level of skill definitely plays into how much fun you can have. Obviously at a lower level you can still have a lot of fun, but I found that once I got into it and I could get those easy 8+, I could get those really cool ability combos, that's when things really started to fall into place for me. And if you're interested in keeping track of your stats in-game, there is a license card that allows you to keep track of your level, rankings, games played, games won, along with your streak and current achievements. So they do give you enough information to formulate how well you're doing and how well you want to progress. So it's a really nice balance for stats, not giving you too many crazy detailed stats, but giving you enough that you feel like you're accomplishing something pretty much all the time. If you're just getting started in Puzzle & Dragons Gold, the Puzzle & Dragons Academy has some good tutorials on the basics and more advanced orb movement and placement to help get you started. It's actually a really good tool to really get used to those early things, especially if you've never played a Puzzle & Dragons title before, as it does have some unique things compared to other kind of puzzler matching games, as you can drag for quite a while and pull off some really cool things. So I definitely recommend checking those out if you are brand new to the franchise itself. The game has 18 pre-constructed teams, with each focusing on an attribute and play style, and are really good for beginners to get a feel for each attribute before getting stuck into the crazy amount of team building and options that you have in the game, and it gives you a really good idea for a direction that you want to go in when you want to use an attribute. It's a really nice way to kind of ease your way into it before you start building your own teams, and I definitely recommend checking out a few of them because you want to get more than one attempt at them. I think I went through about 5 or 6 pre-constructed teams before I kind of got a feel for exactly what I wanted to start building. When you start building your own team, it's a good idea to work out what leader you want to focus on and try and build around the advantage that leader can create. Most of the leader's abilities really are pretty easy to build around. I personally am a big fan of the Evil Eye Cyber Beast, as it was a really good starting point for me, as it was a easy one to understand and an easy one to build upon with more sub-monsters that you can get from the egg machine. So it's a really good point for beginners if you want to start with that one. Plus it seems to have a decent power, so you can really easily kind of steamroll that and get a really good starting point for yourself. So I would definitely recommend checking that one out in particular if you are just starting out with the game and just getting used to it. And for the collectors out there, Puzzle & Dragons Gold also includes a monster book to keep track of the leaders you have and still need to unlock, of which there are 21, along with the sub-monsters that you can collect, of which there are over 590, so you'll always have something to work towards as far as making teams, as all these sub-ones can have different awoken sets, so you're going to be mixing and matching different awoken sets to build the optimal team, so you'll always have something that you can be building on, and that definitely leads more replayability to the game in that sense. So if you are crazy about monster collecting and team building, this is definitely the game for you. For a game that on the surface appears to be rather simple, Puzzle & Dragons Gold has some really in-depth mechanics that can be enjoyed by new and veteran players alike, making it a really solid and interesting addition to the franchise and a great game to own on the Switch. In my personal opinion, I think I'll continue to enjoy and have fun with Puzzle & Dragons Gold for some time, slowly but surely working my way to collecting every monster and building some fun teams as I go. To wrap things up, Puzzle & Dragons Gold takes the great puzzling from the franchise and turns it into a competitive multiplayer game that feels fresh and has some great replayability for those who love collecting monsters and building the best teams. While the story feels short, it does set up the competitive aspect of the game very well, and is something I definitely recommend playing given its inexpensive price and addictive gameplay. It's definitely a game that if you have any interest in puzzle games or just monster collecting games in general, you can have a great time with, and that's really what the game is about, just having some fun in short, nice bursts with nice addictive gameplay. So that'll wrap it up. Until next time guys, see ya.